What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebrous, and today I'm bringing a really cool game your dude's way called Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. This ambitious new title is a sole successor to Skyrim, offering a in-depth RPG experience in a fantasy open world. With quests on quests, great world building, lore, skill progression, and decent enough combat to back it all up. With creative ideas and their own spins on the genre, Tainted Grail stands to be an ambitious indie title with a ton of potential. The setting is the island of Avalon, straight out of Arthurian legend, which is where Tainted Grail takes place. The inspiration and storytelling elements from the tales of King Arthur are woven together in the story and setting of Tainted Grail, providing a really strong backbone to the lore and world building. Avalon itself is a mythical island from the stories of Arthur where things like the making of Excalibur happened, and where Arthur was eventually brought as he died in the stories. Taking place in a kind of foggy era of Arthurian legend, Tainted Grail sees you, the Nameless One, heading off on an epic quest to actually kill the King Man himself, which is a pretty spicy take on the whole legend of King Arthur thing. The story starts up 600 years after King Arthur's death. Prior to this, the Red Death, a plague, had driven him to conquer the island of Avalon from its native inhabitants, ushering in the era of conquest, driving out a mystical force called the Weirdness. But now the Weirdness is coming back, and King Arthur is yet to rise again. The beginning of the game meets you with a pretty good beginning to a character creation system. There's definitely more ways that creating your character could be flushed out in the future, but for now, it's a really solid start to setting up a character for the adventure that you're going to have. Once you've finished setting your character up and deciding your name, you're dropped into a story in motion. The game is pretty much fully voiced with solid fantasy-esque voice acting, but even more cool is that in the game there are branching dialogue paths, similar to its Bethesda inspirations, meaning you can have really detailed conversations with the NPCs across the world of Avalon. As you start the game, you're imprisoned and need to escape, being driven on by a mysterious guy who aided in your rescue. This also gives huge Elder Scrolls vibes, being massively reminiscent of Oblivion's game intro, which, in my opinion, is a good thing. This game sets its tone right away and lets you know what you're getting into, and it's a really good version of it. As you make your way through the prison, you're introduced to the various game mechanics, like combat, lockpicking, stealth, and eventually a bit of magic. Pretty much everything in this game has a skill related to it, and simply playing the game will see you leveling up a massive amount of skills, from magic to athletics, everything related to combat, cooking and crafting. It's pretty much all got a skill assigned, which means the progression in this game is constantly satisfying, being one of the most fleshed out aspects of the game so far. But another very fleshed out aspect of the game is the loot, man! This game's both a hoarder's paradise and worst nightmare all rolled into one. You can loot everything from the clothes on an enemy's back to the cutlery that they were going to eat their meal with, which just means you can go around looting constantly, which has led to some of the most compulsive looting I've done in a video game in a long time. But I think the strongest thing that I've enjoyed from Tainted Grail so far has been its world design. It's fantastic, with so many places to explore and search through, hidden bosses, loot, and just neat things are hidden around the early access map. We'll talk about the whole early access thing around the end of this video, but for now, I think it's a great way to introduce the game and get some early funding for a really sick project. But the map itself has tons hidden away, from quests to locations. Exploration is already really rewarding in the game, and I'm excited to see this aspect of the game expand as the map itself expands. Now, for combat, this one's a bit of a mixed bag, as combat has a ton of potential in the game, but for now it just feels a bit stiff, and due to a bit of rough AI, is not exactly the most engaging yet. But again, this shows a ton of potential to grow as the game is developed. I think if combat could be tightened up even further, maybe given a bit of style with finishers and some of the already planned things like dual wielding, it could turn from a alright experience that it is now into a really awesome one, even better than Skyrim's if the focus is put on it. The game engine is really flexible, so I'm excited to see what else could be done as the game progresses through its early access. The Unity game engine has really stepped its game up over the years, and is becoming an excellent platform to deliver high-end games from. So with the openness of Unity plus the openness of a Skyrim-esque game, it has the potential to do a bunch of things, from neat animations to particle effects, and unique things like time control that's already on display in the game. But another thing that I think has a ton of potential to get really cool as the game develops is the magic system. I haven't gotten super far into the magic side of the game. I'm mainly just running around with a big-ass two-handed sword for most of the game so far, but the magic already seems really cool, with healing and buffs and offensive magic and summons. There's already a lot of variety, and I haven't even really gotten into it yet. And that's mainly because I'm caught up questing, dude. This game throws quests at you from every corner, basically. From the expected first merchant quest to ones hidden away in beachside mansions and even further north. Again, I feel this is another high point of the game, because not only are there a lot of quests, but they're also pretty varied, I'd say, with only a few quests so far feeling fetchy. Now, let's talk on the early access aspect of the game, because it's an important part. As an early access game, you do encounter some of the stereotypical things from that type of game. There's a solid chunk of optimization to do with frame rate stutter and a kinda generalized performance. As well, this means no console release date as of right now, but personally I feel this game would be great on consoles one day, maybe after it goes through the growing stages of early access. But before we sign off on the video, let's talk about what's planned ahead during early access that will all be great to see come to the game along the way. There are plans to further improvements of the game's core systems, which, in all honesty, anything that I said as a downside is planned to be improved in this list, which is kinda neat, man. I really think that these devs have the right focus here. Thievery systems and improvements to stealth, which will be great to see. I'm kinda building a stealth character right now, so I might have a video to do with that in the future, who knows. Dual wielding, which we touched on earlier, but will be a great way to add even more to the way that you can play in the game and skills for you to grind. Improvements to melee, which again we talked on, but it has a ton of potential to grow, so I'm stoked for this, probably most of all from the list of things to be improved. Player-owned houses, as well as more generalized activities like gardening and fishing, which is all good stuff, man. Then the expansion of the map too, possibly along the way. There's a lot to look forward to from this game, and with its ambition set so high, I'm stoked to see what Tainted Grail will pull off in its game's lifetime. So, I want to know, what do you think of this indie Skyrim to be? I think it has a ton of potential, and if you'd like to pick it up for yourself, links will be in the description down below. But for now, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.